Hello, everybody, and welcome to the World Edition. My name is Nick Palavita. I will not be your host for today. That'll be up to Steve Rowell and Mark Lee as soon as they arrive. But for those people who were here late last night, um, we had a start of a new show called World Politics, which I just ran the commercial from, basically. And that's going to be every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 o'clock. And you get to listen to politics around the world, especially what's going on in the United States of America. So tune in Tuesday. Now, if you missed it, which I did because I was out, it was rerun at around 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock. So hopefully you'll be able to see World Politics. It's a great show, and it's a new show on the Pod TV network. So without further ado, we're going to bring in the host of this show, the person who is the host with the most, who knows the most, and that's Steve from Morrisville. I got to say that. Morrisville, North Carolina. For those who don't know where that is, you're just like the rest of the world. But with that, we'll bring in city councilman and also the host of this show, the Honorable Steve Rowell. So, Steve, it's your show. So, it's your
Yes, and I'm sorry I'm late, and I wanted to welcome everyone to the show. I'm going to go ahead and open up my monologue on Monday on an article that I've written for WRL here locally, and it's a newspaper here in North Carolina, and a website, actually a news station, and it's all about Canada eating America's lunch. And what we're going to talk about next week is Canada's push to recruit high skilled workers, H-1B visa skilled immigrants, and they basically within 2 days of this new law, over 10,000 people applied and were accepted. So people from Silicon Valley, Austin, and even the Triangle, many of them are looking at Canada. So I'm going to be opening up the monologue on Monday on that because I didn't have time. I was a little bit late playing pickleball today. You can see my USTA Pro Circuit as a former collegiate tennis player. We're hosting a pro tennis tournament here in Cary, and really exciting matches. Some of them, Chris Eubanks played it last year. Francis Tiafoe played it. Ben Shelton played it about a few years ago. So we're really excited. And really just a lot going on in the world. I'm going to go ahead and just give you a couple of things going on. But on World Edition, we're going to be doing less talk about what's going on in the world. That's really going to be for world politics. And moving forward on the show, we're going to pick issues that we can talk about either by bringing guests or things that are on your mind that impact us. And I still think that World Edition, we will be talking a lot about artificial intelligence and AI and its impact on the economy. And also we'll be talking about, other issues like, just economic issues, smart cities and Internet of Things, and the kinds of things that places in the world are dealing with in terms of climate change, sustainability. So really, really excited. At the end of the day, before I bring in Nick, and I'm only here for about 30 minutes today, but I'll be back on Monday, both for the full World Edition and World Politics show on Tuesday, is that, we're living in very, very disruptive and turbulent times. And sometimes I wonder whether my thesis is that it's the media, and Nick Paudiva often talks about that is covering so much more stuff that needs to be covered. And the extremes of politics being brought to us every day on our television sets, every night. Donald Trump investigations, the indictments, the charges against Hunter Biden, the rumors of Biden not running again, Trump running again, Biden running again. And I think America is just very divided. But we also have a world that's very divided, the world order. The post-American world order is pretty much over. Countries like India and China are vying to be number one. Russia is dominating with, trying to take over Ukraine. And you see a rise of autocracy and dictatorship all over the world. I don't know whether that's because it's easier to be a dictator. It's easier to tell the people that you rule what change you're going to bring them. Because let's face it, democracy is hard work. As Andrew Shepard said in The American President, played by Michael Douglas, it's advanced citizenship. You've got to want it bad. And he gives the example of burning a flag in front of somebody that actually fought for the country and gave their life for the flag or sacrificed their life. at the end of the day, before I open up, my theory is based on a book I recommended by Fareed Zakaria, The Narrow Corridor, that strong democracies are democracies that can have a strong government that can prevent chaos, but at the same time, a society that can respect civil rights. And that's what makes America a republic that is very unique. Despite all of the critics of the America's on decline and America's not going to make it, we're going through a bad patch now. But at the end of the day, they didn't storm the Capitol and take over in a coup. You will be held accountable to law and you will be put in prison in the United States of America by doing that. And we have rules and expectations, rights that we all have based on our Constitution. And our republic has done very well. We have withstood the time. And so at the end of the day, that's my political theory of the day, that democratic elections are not enough. Democracy takes work. And as that title of the book says, it's a narrow corridor. And it's a balance between a strong government and a civil society and respects human rights. And it's hard to get both right. And so kudos to us in the United States of America. And hopefully we'll see our democracy continue to work, although many people are saying it's on the decline. So Nick, that's kind of my opening insights today as we look at, and we talk about this stuff on world politics, but I'm going to look at my breaking news real quickly, but let's, Nick, go ahead and start. I'm going to give you a couple of things to talk about. Thank you. Hey, Mark.
Hey, no problem. One of the things I was going to ask, and it actually comes to our thoughts about people that are not necessarily divisive, because I think yesterday on World Politics, I mentioned Senator No and Jesse Helms and all along those lines, but there was a person, and you may have known him. I did not have the pleasure of knowing him, but he was a figurehead here in North Carolina that some folks gave the credit for being able to walk across the aisles and to work on both sides as a I think he served as both with Democrats as well as being a Republican senator, and that was Lotch Faircloth, who we just recently lost and everything. So I didn't know if you had any thoughts about that, Steve, since he just recently passed away. And my understanding of him as a North Carolina politician was one that did not mind walking across both sides of the aisle. And I don't know if Jacoby, who is also a student of the news, had any thoughts around him as well, because I did see that he had passed away, I believe it was yesterday, but it did seem like he was one of those politicians that was able to get past some of these divides that we have and everything. So all along those lines. Lotch Faircloth?
Oh, he died?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he was a good U.S. senator. He did, Brad Crone, who's my good friend, a political consultant, did work for Lotch Faircloth. They were actually in a plane crash together. And the funniest thing that Brad Crone said is that, I don't like to cuss, but Brad put up a copy of the plane that they crashed, him and the senator. And I think they got out of the plane, and I think the senator told Brad that he was surprised that he got his fat ass out of that small window. Brad Crone's lost a lot of weight since then. He was a bit heavier when he first ran my first political campaign. But real quickly, talking North Carolina politics, a bit of a game changer. North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Mike Morgan has announced his candidacy for governor against the frontrunner Josh Stein, the Attorney General, making allegations, not really calling out any names, saying, look, it's not, and I actually like what Mike Morgan had said, and I know I have a number of people asking me to run for labor commissioner, and for those of you out there, I am considering it, and that's the commissioner of labor position, which is the council of state position, running on this idea of tech and innovation and being the voice of North Carolina workers from a technology perspective. But he made one statement that really resonated with me, was that it isn't up to a few people, select people, to pick their leaders. And when they asked him on the news, what do you mean? He said, that's what primaries are for. So it's almost like he's attacking the governor. Now, I don't know whether he can win this race if Cooper is formally endorsing Stein, but very interesting. So now you're going to have a black man fighting Josh Stein in the primary. And of course, some people say Morgan would maybe have a better chance against Robinson, but who knows? I don't know.
And that's actually the other situation that's happened on the Republican side as well, because you in that race have Robinson, who is an African American, going against Mark Walker as well. So there are now 4 candidates that are running here in North Carolina, and all along those lines. But just really quickly, just to let folks know, since I know that definitely seems like Jimmy Carter is also on his still at the hospice care, and who knows when he might be passing as well. But yeah, Lord Faircloth definitely came from some
The
of those
only man who
farmers
can beat
kind of,
hospice, Jimmy
backgrounds
Carter.
as well, because he was a hog farmer who at one time was a Republican senator, and he was instrumental apparently in stripping the District of Columbia, DC,
Yes.
and the mayor of Marion Barry of all authority in dealing with an overwhelming financial crisis back in '97.
Jimmy Carter's such a great man that as he saw the light, God said, "Look, you're too good of a man. Go back and be with Earth, be with human beings." And Jimmy Carter just wakes up, and what if he just ends up looking like $1 million?
Yeah, it could be and everything.
He's like an
Just
angel from God. What?
Just really
He really
quickly,
is.
because just really quickly, I don't know if Nick, and we'll get to some of the other issues, have any thoughts about Faircloth, but one of the things that he did is he went in 1992, having switched to the Republicans, because he was a Democrat, and he got the support of Senator Jesse Helms and defeated an old ally, Senator Terry Sanford, and went to Washington for those 6 years between 93 and 99 with an agenda. You'll love this, Nick. To cut taxes, balance the federal budget, and reduce the size of government, particularly its welfare assistance programs. Does that sound familiar, even though we're talking about like 25 years ago and everything? Because that's what some people are running on now. So it seems like we are still dealing with the same issue some 25 years later and everything. But any thoughts about that? Because I saw what he was running on. I'm going like, what?
He reminds me of Ruben Askew. Ruben Askew, right? Oh, wait, Ruben Askew's from Florida. So you guys in North Carolina don't know who they are. Well, I'm from Florida. I don't know who this Faircloth guy is. So I could care less.
Real quickly, just a couple of world points. 11,300 have died in Libya through the
Hunter Biden's making the news.
11,300 have died in Libya. They've buried 3,000 and 13,000 workers at three of America's biggest car makers, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, are at strike. And this is a really big deal. It could hurt the economy. The United Auto Workers are seeking a 40% pay raise, and the companies have offered 20%. Some people are concerned about the strike, and although Biden supports unions, does he really support strikes? So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. We can definitely talk about that just really quickly, and then I'll get off of Faircloth.
Yeah, let's get back to Faircloth.
Even though you may not know Faircloth, Nick, you probably know who beat him and everything, because he lost his bid for re-election to John Edwards, who became the vice presidential nominee. And you probably also know Mr. Barry. And when he was defeated, Mr. Barry, the person who was running DC at the time, said goodbye Faircloth. So there are folks that folks love to hate, because there was actually an article that said Senator Faircloth demand DC love to hate. So he wasn't just known in this area, but in other parts of the world as well.
Yeah, well, the people in Florida really don't care about North Carolina politics. I'm sorry.
No,
they just
take it.
And hopefully the University of Miami will come up and kick UNC's butt. I'm looking forward to that.
Another gun shooting at UNC. Everyone really concerned about that. I don't know how we solve the gun issue, guys. I just don't know.
We're not going to solve it on this show, Steve. I mean, the reality is you have a Second Amendment that sticks up your rear. No matter what you try to draft or try to be rational, it doesn't matter, because your hands are tied. It's like the ACC. Their hands are tied by this agreement that they can't leave. They all their television rights till 2036. The hands are tied.
There's a difference.
What happens on the guns, your hands are tied by gentlemen that existed in the 1700s that crafted a rule that won't allow you to do anything. So it's kind of a waste of time. If you want to solve the gun issue in the United States, here's what you do. Leave the United States and go to other countries that don't have the crazy rules that they do here. And there's some great countries. Morocco is one. I went there. Spain's another. That's great. Italy's great. Iceland is wonderful. There's plenty of countries to go live and spend a lot of time in, rather than the violent United States of America. When we're in New Zealand, the people in New Zealand go, we're going to go vacation in Europe. I said, why not the United States? This is years ago. The United States is too violent. No one would go there. And that's the reality of where we're at. And so we don't want to solve the problem. That's fine. That's one reason I believe in open borders, because I'd like the borders to have reciprocity. So when I get tired of this country, I pick up my little things and I leave.
Hey, Nick, since you're talking about rules and since you mentioned Florida, what do you think? And we love talking about controversial issues here on the network, but what do you think about a presidential candidate that is giving contradiction advice when it comes to COVID? Because apparently contradicting guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and the state's top health department officials recommended residents against getting the new COVID-19 vaccine.
Ron DeSantis,
we went
Ron
over that. I
DeSantis
mean,
blocked-
first of all, DeSantis's expert, the guy who's purportedly head of it, is not
Yes.
an infectious disease expert.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, it's like me. I'm a tax attorney. I specialize in pensions. Oh, can you talk about partnership taxation? No, I don't know nothing really about it. Or how about criminal law? You try to throw criminal law at me. I've never handled a criminal case in my life, Mark. Okay, so the thing is, when this guy is opining on infectious diseases, he doesn't have a clue. Like,
Well, this is the exact quote, and I'd love to hear. Maybe Nick
mouthing what
has told me he's got some thoughts. But the exact quote that he says
Sure,
was,
everybody has
"I will not
thoughts.
stand by and let the FDA and the CDC use
So what?
healthy Floridians as guinea pigs for new booster
Ron
shots that have not been
DeSantis.
proven to be safe or effective."
No,
He said
he's-
in a
he's-
news release after the panel
Okay,
discussion.
he's so full of it. But let me tell you something. There's really great
Full of it,
news.
he's full of it.
Okay,
It's much
there's
longer.
really great news about them not taking the virus, basically the vaccine. Then they catch the virus and they die. Now, why is that good news for everybody who's listening? Our Social Security system and Medicare system under tremendous stress right now. And usually this is going to affect the older people. They're going to croak. So older, stupid people who listen to this idiot will die. And you have what they call, Darwin says, natural selection. You got rid of them. And it saved taxpayers millions of dollars. So in one
Nick,
respect,
apparently that's what's
Kansas
going on
is
because
right.
apparently Florida
Kansas is
hospitals are reporting
Don't take
more
the
COVID
vaccine.
cases than any
Old
other state.
people, please
Their
just
pandemic
go
death
in your
toll
corner
has
and
surpassed
old
90,000,
people go in
and the
your corner
weekly
and
new
die.
cases is 24,000.
I've got to
for
leave
2
in
consecutive weeks.
I've got to leave in 10 minutes, but I can't believe Adam Lamparello always says on World Politics, Donald Trump was the best president of the United States in modern history. It's just, I mean, look, I mean, I'm going to
You
get
can say it with a
Lamparello.
straight face.
Remember when we had COVID? I'm going to try a Trump imitation. I've been watching a little Trevor Nova. When COVID came in, when COVID first came out, Trump was like, "It's going to go away. It's going to go
Oh,
away."
he didn't have a clue. What,
Trump, like Trevor Noah said, you
yeah,
know,
no, that's right.
no, with Trump, you
It'll
never
just
knew when
go
to
away.
raise the volume or turn it down. He's
Yeah.
like, "We're gonna give you a vaccine that's wonderful." It's good.
Well, come on, Steve. He's a real estate salesman. What is he supposed to do?
He was a
Yeah,
bad
he's
real
like,
estate salesman.
he's like, you just take a little Clorox and it's
Come
gonna
on.
be gone.
Yeah.
Gone. And Chinese, we let them in. They got it from the bats, and you know.
Hey, come on,
What the
Steve.
hell?
You guys are
Lamparello
real estate
will come on and
salesmen.
go,
He's a slumlord.
Donald
What's he
J. Trump
supposed to say?
is the best president of the United States in modern
That-
history of the world. What is he talking about?
Because
yeah, he brought jobs back.
Adam
He
actually
did.
has some
He did
merit to
bring
his
jobs
claim.
back. I'll give Trump that. We got to give him credit. He was on a track there.
Yeah,
I think COVID just totally derailed
COVID,
it. He did-
COVID killed Trump.
He did a good job
He
with
would've
that.
won
And
if
Biden
COVID
has
didn't
carried
fall.
forward his policies, right?
Yeah.
There
But-
are.
But he also isolated the world from America, and you know he had all these, oh, I like Kim Jong Il, he's my good friend, and Putin's
Yeah,
a good.
there are. I mean, there are policies that he tried to enact that had merit, but then he had so much baggage. So you're looking at, if you got 2 bags of good things.
I love doing my
you got
Trump
50
imitation. I do that
bags
more
of
on the
bad
show.
things.
Whenever I get mad to detract, when we get mad, I'm just gonna go into a Donald Trump. Especially with
But he
Shaquille.
does have
Especially
some
with Shaquille. Go, Shaquille is wonderful. He's wonderful. Not bad, huh? Not bad.
He does have
You
some
tell me
positive
you were making
merit.
a point and everything.
No, I agree. I mean,
The GDP was going up. He did bring taxes down for the wealthy.
He did. He did.
those
He
are
was on
positive
to a good
things.
start. I mean, look,
Well-
let's face this. I know. Well, I mean, the thing with Trump, we often forget. What brought him to power was this kind of mentality that, I'm one of us. We're the working people of America. We haven't been paid attention to. Jobs are going overseas. The Democrats are part of the urban elite, and I'm going to come in and make America great again by doing all these things, playing on racist fears of kind of immigrants coming out being rapists and thugs and murderers, and then kind of implying that, and I think COVID came along and just kind of derailed him, and he just got so defensive.
So Steve, he also suffers from narcissistic personality
Yes.
disorder. By the way, narcissistic personality disorder is really high in politicians. The better you are a politician, the more you suffer from not narcissistic personality disorder. Stephen, that's your problem. You don't have enough narcissistic personality disorder so that you can become a great politician.
Well, speaking of,
Speaking
hold on a second. Speaking of
I do.
Speaking of narcissism, and I definitely agree that he has some narcissism. Some other politicians had narcissism as well. But a lot of these politicians are dealing with corruption. We talked about that this is world edition, just like we got world politics. So a number of folks are dealing with resistance in their own country. So I want to bring up a couple of items and see what folks think, because apparently we know we talk about China here on this show often. Definitely we talk about it in relation to Ukraine and Russia and all of that, and definitely in relation to Taiwan. But it looks like they are having some investigations as well, because apparently their defense minister is under investigation for corrupt procurement. So he has gone and apparently stolen and gotten some stuff that he wasn't supposed to get. So they are looking at him and all in that space. They're looking at Persian military brass, or some of them, in that part of the world. And then I see that in India there is more repression, yet more resistance. So there was 1 year after the Masa Amani protest, and the Reza Pahlavi, the son of Iran's last Shah, says we're entering a new phase of resistance in Iran. So I just wonder what folks' thoughts are, because there is looking like there is resistance around the world, not just here in the United States, and folks are looking at their government. As a matter of fact, even in Britain, they're having Jatovia, you're going to love this. They're having a discussion over American bulldogs, because apparently American XL bully dogs are dangerous in the community and are going to be banned, according to Rishi Sunak and all of that, because they're saying that the American bully XL Furor is a stark reminder of the uneasy bond between dogs and humans. So I guess those dogs have been having a field day over there in Britain and everything. But what are our thoughts? Because apparently
we're not the only ones. Because of them being fighting dogs, or them being aggressive, or
I thought they didn't like the pit bull. What is it? The pit bull or American?
So in the U.S., well, the pit bull always gets a bad rap because
they do bad things.
No, they actually don't. It's the fact that people breed them to fight, and then when those dogs being bred to fight get loose, yes, it's like a wild animal. I mean, so the pit bull is actually a very loyal and great dog. But
the people that are horrible. Is that what you're trying to say? They're masters.
Yeah,
horrible.
Yeah.
Is that what you're
it just turns out that way.
It looks like in London it was because an American Bully XL looks like it's a crossbreed dog, but there was an attack on a girl in Birmingham there in London. So their version of Birmingham. And 2 years ago, there was a American bully that mauled and killed a 10-year-old boy in Wales. And earlier this year, a woman was killed by her own bully XL in Surrey. So definitely there are campaigners that call in for that breed to be banned. And the home secretary there in London described it as a clear and lethal danger. And the Royal Kennel Club doesn't even recognize the Bully XL, which is a combination of the American Pit Bull Terrier and American and English Bulldog. So apparently it's got some of those qualities of being a crossbreed between those dogs, including the one that you just mentioned, the Pit Bull and everything. So it's because of the attacks that the dog launched that is, I guess, the reason that they are saying we're going to just ban the poor dog.
I mean, I'm just
and it's not just dogs. But by the way, it's not just dogs, because I understand. I wish Shaquille was here, because I was going to mention it to him a couple of days ago that there was and we've even got some here in the North Carolina, but there was a overflow of feral cats in Australia. So apparently they are trying to legislate what they're going to do. Maybe they're going to euthanize these cats and everything else, but they're trying to legislate how they're going to handle the cats, because apparently they are getting overrun with feral cats there in the area of Australia. So I was going to
two things to quickly point out on that is that
here, but that was another major animal news story that I had seen.
Two things to quickly point out on that is that one, cats have killed the most species of any animal across the globe, the domestic cat. And then I think Steve was talking about was about to say something.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to run, guys. I've got to leave to another meeting. I've got to go on live statewide radio today, so I had to prep for my show on WPTF. Be on there at 3 o'clock. The big news here is Lufthansa just announced a major new expansion from Raleigh to Frankfurt. This is going to actually increase direct service to India, Africa, and Switzerland and other European countries. But back on Monday to talk about skilled immigration. Have a great day wherever you are in the world, and it'll be a busy Monday with World Edition and World Politics on Tuesday. Thank you all so much. And Mark, carry on with some of the issues I talked about, plus the unions strike, and we will remember Senator Faircloth as well. Thank you all so much. Yep.
No doubt about that and everything. And even with the strikes, I think that it was a couple of days ago that the sanitation workers here in North Carolina agreed to go back to work. I think it's this Tuesday that they are going back to work, if I remember correctly. So that strike is over. I think they got some of their demands, but not all of their demands. So it's over for now. But I know that there are still some actions that are going on in terms of continuing the protest. So I am thinking that they are still wanting to get some things that they have not gotten, but they have agreed to go back to work, at least for now. But it might be one of those temporary going back to work if they don't get everything that they want and all in that space. And speaking of the economy, it looks like Vietnam's economy is on fire. So they're saying that Vietnam apparently is doing well. And I know that the both Biden and Harris are going to visit that area. And definitely looks like we're looking at that part of the world as maybe a counter to what is going on with China and everything. So apparently there was an article in Barron that said that their economy is on fire, but that their stocks are not. So that could be an interesting conversation to talk about in terms of what we are doing with Vietnam. We went to war with them, and now apparently we are looking at them as a place to stabilize some of the region as well. So I know that you're trying to take over the world, Nick. So what are our thoughts about Vietnam as a rapidly growing, emerging economic power, and whether we should be looking at them as an economic power?
Well, interesting. There was a poll done. Which country likes Americans the most?
Mm-hmm.
The number one country in the world that likes American the most is Vietnam. Now, the reason it's weird is there was this Vietnam War or policing expedition, whatever the heck we did years ago, which was pretty bad. And you'd think they would all hate us. But here was the problem. Most of the Vietnamese, like a vast majority of them, were born way after the Vietnam War. In other words, it's in their history books. It's nothing that they really experienced. So there's a weird phenomenon going down there that America, if you check all the countries, now this is somebody else's study, I didn't do it. They studied all the countries and they said the place where you go that Americans are loved the most is actually Vietnam. Now, with that, of course, things change, and Americans go to Vietnam all the time. I mean, to see Ho Chi Minh City, to go see, Hanoi, to go see Vietnam. Apparently, it's a really very attractive country, and they've built a manufacturing base. The sweater, the shirt may have been made in Vietnam. Shoes have been made in Vietnam. In other words, they're making a lot of product. Because of that, they're actually competing with China. And this is where the problem comes. In other words, China goes, wait a minute, you guys are eating our lunch down there in Vietnam. You guys are out producing us. So we're really a counterbalance to China, apparently, down in Vietnam. So the international relationships are pretty weird. And the other thing that's really weird is that if you look at the population of the world, it's not the United States and Europe, which we talk about all the time. It's actually India and China. That whole Asian continent has zillions of people, Mark.
It's the vast majority of the population. Both of them have. I know that the entire population is, I think, like around 8 billion, but those two alone have multiple billions. I want to say that if we add the two, it's probably like somewhere like 2.5 or maybe even 3 billion. So close to half of the world's population is coming from India and Asia and all along those lines. So yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. By the way, you're going to love this term because you do a lot of travel, and there's another article that I came up with and saw that was of interest. But Venice is actually running into trouble as well, because Venice could be stripped of its special status as it is facing a tourism crisis. So the tourist spot of Venice is risking joining UNESCO's endangered list as mass tourism continues to overwhelm the ancient Italian city and one of their top budget official says we're trying to avoid this, but it's not as if we're slaves of UNESCO. UNESCO issued a warning over the summer that Venice has not done enough to protect the cultural sites as post-lockdown tourism soars across Europe. And social media, this is where you're going to love this term, because we love when social media comes up with new terms. Social media termed the phenomenon revenge travel. People making up for the lack of freedom they endured during both local and national restrictions during the height of the pandemic. So they are now going and I guess traveling all over the world because they can travel all over the world.
Venice has a problem. I try to go there when there's very few people there, but it's really, really tough. They actually have a problem. They have too many people. It's like Disney World on steroids. But there's a solution to it, and Disney created the solution also as well. And Bhutan has that solution as well. If you go to Bhutan, here's their solution. You want to go to Bhutan? That's fine. We charge a fee of $300 a day for foreigners to come to our country. Like, no kidding. That's the reason
apparently Venice is doing that, because the city will try to battle the surge by enforcing a 5.5 euro, which is $5.40 interest fee for all day trippers on 30 high traffic days yet to be determined, and we're going in spring of 2024.
Not enough. Well, remember, see what happens. People come off cruise ships, and also there's what's called Venice Mestre. Venice Mestre is north of Venice, right? And it has tons of hotels. And then you have to take a bridge to get in. And once you get in, there are no cars because it's all, you have to go by boat and walk. Okay, so, but it's really easy in their case to isolate the island and charge a fee for people. Remember, if you go to Disney World, it's like $100, $140 to get into the Magic Kingdom. 140 bucks, okay? And people pay it. It's still crowded. Venice can solve the problem. $100 a day to go through the beautiful gates of Venice. Oh, slow down.
A lot of people would not be going there and everything. You know, there's a major thing that we all need. We all have a need for it every day, both in our body as well as just in day-to-day existence. That's called water. And apparently there are 2 Caribbean countries that are fighting over water, because Dominican Republic has shut down its border with Haiti over a water spat, because they are having some tensions over a canal and all of that, because Dominican Republic is calling the canal construction provocation, and they're shutting down their border with Haiti. So what are our thoughts around people using water as a weaponizing water? That definitely sounds like we're weaponizing the water.
Yeah, it happens in the Pacific Southwest. I mean, you know, the thing is, water is a weapon in California, Arizona. They call it riparian rights. The Colorado River, which is a big, you know, feeds into a lot of places in Arizona and Nevada and around there. People fight over water in California and there all the time. So it doesn't surprise me. They do that in the United States. And part of it in riparian rights is what you do is if you're upstream, you cut off the water supply. So people downstream don't get the water. So it is a subject of quite a bit of national litigation as well as international litigation. I mean, so it's an issue, and you're right, Mark. That it is a political issue. So repairing
an issue. This is an interesting article that I found that folks will be finding quite interesting. Apparently, Brazilian prosecutors are believing that Danilo Cavalcante, and we've talked about him, escaped the Pennsylvania prison because he was hoping to face charges in lenient Brazil. So apparently, he was escaping because he wanted to get to Brazil because he thought that he would get more lenient treatment if he got to Brazil. So I don't know whether folks think that is the case, because I thought Brazil might even be harsher, but maybe he thought that he was going to get a more lenient trial if he got to Brazil, which we know he did not because he got caught and everything. But apparently that is what some folks are saying from Brazil. Was
he might be right, because the laws may be different there. When it comes to viewership, though, because I'm checking our Vimeo status. Right now, our number 2 country that watches our shows is actually Brazil. It's been that way for years. Number 1 is the United States. Number 3 is Mexico. I'm looking at it right now on the other screen. Number 4 is Canada, then the United Kingdom, then Italy, then Japan. Japanese people watch the show. Like, good.
That means we got to start talking about anime.
I don't know what we're going to talk about. Why Japan shows up in the top 10, I don't know. Then Argentina, then Colombia, then Chile, then Saudi Arabia, then Italy. Noticeably absent is China. Okay, I just read through the list. Okay, why? Well, China just doesn't allow a lot of our product into their country.
Is Taiwan on the list? Because apparently I was
No.
going to get a story about Taiwan because the U.S. is going to do a switcheroo, apparently, because we are cutting military aid to Egypt, even though they did approve $235 million in Egypt aid. But they're saying that they're going to switch the money from Egypt and redirect it to Taiwan and Lebanon. So I guess we're going to go say that Egypt isn't as much of an ally, and we like Taiwan more. So we're going to send some of the money that we were going to send to Egypt to Taiwan and Lebanon. So it looks like they're doing the old political switcheroo and all in that space. But what are our thoughts around that? Because
Well, Egypt doesn't show up on the list. I'm just looking at our top
Right.
countries. U.S. leads by far. 2 million people watched us last year on the network. 2.2 million people. Now it's the whole network. Don't get your heads up. It's not just our show. Then it drops to Brazil, 11,000, Mexico, 1,000, Canada, 957, UK, 500, Italy,
Hey,
200.
Nick, we got some good numbers. Because we talked about it yesterday because it's supposedly one of the happiest countries and everything. But I was just wondering how are and if you can tell, how are we doing in Estonia, Lithuania, and Finland? The reason I asked is because apparently Estonia, Lithuania are threatened seizure of Russian vehicles, and Finland is going to ban most Russian arrivals by car from midnight. So if you're going to come to Finland, you got to go before midnight and everything. So they are banning the entry of Russian registered vehicles. So I'm trying to address things of countries that we may have on our list. So is either of those countries are folks watching them or watching us or not watching us, because that is some items that were going on in that part of the world. They're like, don't bring the Russian stuff over here.
I don't know. I haven't seen Estonia show up. They're on the list, but I got to get to the region to find out where they're at. Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania, you're talking about really tiny countries, Mark. In other words, they're so tiny that Raleigh-Durham has a bigger population than the whole country of Estonia. These countries just aren't that big. So you don't see that many, you're not going to get that many viewers because it equals about what the United States equals. So it's just, they're tiny countries. U.S. is the big one, the big apple in the mall because of its huge population, 300 million. Brazil shows up, and I can't even tell you why.
Brazil, we do have a couple of Latin shows. We've got Que Pasa Mujer that is on in the what day is that on? That's on Sunday. And we've got a couple of other shows that I know have some folks that watch from Brazil, because I've watched some of those numbers as well. So definitely it looks like that is part of it. But we talk about the ways that the countries are being divided, this new BRICS alliance and a number of other things. And apparently there are some of those small countries that are getting involved in that as well, because one of the other stories that I saw was about Bulgaria and Romania joining Schengen is a matter of European unity and fairness. So apparently we've got some folks that are wanting European unity and fairness, and definitely that is what is happening in that area. So I guess that they are trying to team up and be unified in what they are doing. So I know that most of them are part of NATO and all in that space. But they got some problems too, because another argument that one of those folks that I was referring to were talking about was that it would cause issues within the housing problem, because they are having housing issues just like we're having housing issues as well. So they are thinking that that could be something to help those kind of situations if they were protected under, I guess, some sort of European Union. So any thoughts around this notion of European unity and all in that space? Because that's something that I also saw where folks were saying that, hey, we got to have some European unity among all our European countries. Because I guess some people in Europe are feeling like,
for a traveler, it's easier to get around with the European Union because you change your currency one time into euros, and then you have to keep changing it. Now, why does that make a difference? Because every time you change your currency, you get clipped, 3 to 5%. Okay, in other words, you lose money. So part of the reason I like the European Union is I only change my currency once. The minute Gibraltar and the United Kingdom said, "Oh, we're going to Brexit," then I had to go to Gibraltar, change currencies. I tried not to, basically, and they always take a big hit right up the top when you change it. So that and other
And when
reasons.
you went there,
That's
did you run into
selfish
these
reasons
kind of
I like the European Union.
when you went there, did you run across some of these apparently travel delays? Because one of the articles I was reading, it was in Euractiv, was saying that just as an example, travel and trade are hindered by delays that can last from hours, and we know they can last for hours even in the United States, to days. So compared to an average 10-minute wait within the Schengen area that is part of Europe. But this is, they said, detrimental to truck drivers, impacting not just their livelihood, but also increasing CO2 emissions by a staggering 46,000 tons annually, which they are saying could help with the whole notion of what we're doing to our climate. So I was just wondering, when you went traveling, did you have to stay in a line of cars for literally not just hours, but a day or two? Because it does look like there are parts of Europe that are having some serious traffic jams if you're in your car that long.
Nope, never had a problem. You know, the thing is, the travels are pretty efficient because you travel through trains, and they have high-speed trains that go everywhere. And that's one thing that Europe has, and that's much better in the U.S. We have a very poor mass transportation system, especially when it comes to trains. I don't know what we have against high-speed rail in this country. We love our cars, and they clog the interstates. Okay, and everybody seems to be happy with that. But in Europe, they have high-speed trains, and it's very efficient to get from place to place because you get on a train, whoop, you're in another city. Also, the cities are much more compact. We're spread out like crazy, you know. So the urban planners here really don't exist. They're tightly packed in, so you can basically get around without a car. Well, every time I go to Europe, I never rent a car. I just take trains, planes, and never automobiles, or very rarely take the automobile. So they have just a whole different way of life. And then the crime. You know, Morocco, you're totally safe. Now, this is really embarrassing. In the United States, you're not. So Morocco, a much more better place to live than this country, you know, at least from a safety standpoint. And same with Spain. So, you know, you have some.
You mentioned that we're not doing well in
Miss
China,
Emma
so I'm going
showed
to
up.
actually try to get us some Chinese listeners. Hey, Jacoby, what do you think about the notion of China training folks in other fields? And I know we've trained folks as well, but apparently Madero is saying that Venezuela will send an astronaut to the moon in a Chinese spaceship. So apparently China is going to train the Venezuelans to join Beijing's moon project. So I guess we're going to be sending a Venezuelan to the moon pretty soon as well. So I know they've been having conversations between China and Venezuela. So are you ready for a Venezuelan to be up there in the moon? And are they going to join this space race? Because the space race right now is the major countries, but now it looks like Venezuela might be jumping into the race as well.
Well, the space race is a huge barrier right now. That, or the next big race. I mean, you have AI that's going to destroy the planet, AI and global warming that we're running away from, but everybody's trying to get to the space. So yeah, I mean, it's your next big race. Every country's going to jump in it if they've got a little bit of money. And India, honestly, showing how cheaply it can be done. It's a big race right now. Big race.
Oh, hey, Mark, I was looking at the
It is.
demographics on viewership. One person saw us in Greenland last year.
Well, maybe that was the one person. Maybe that was the one person that was stranded on the cruise ship that was stranded there for a while.
I'm just going like, how do you even watch anything in Greenland? I have no clue. Do they even
Like,
get
there was a whole ship.
I just love the fact that Greenland is usually snowy and Iceland is usually green.
Yeah, right. That's kind of like the whole idea. I was going like, wow, the viewership was huge last year in Greenland. We had one person.
Well, like I said, there was that luxury cruise ship that ran aground in Greenland with over 200 people on board. So maybe one of the 200 people was watching us, and that's how we got that one viewer. Not saying that is the case, but that did just recently happen. It got run aground, so maybe they were sitting there and found a internet on the laptop, and they were the one person who was like, hey, I ain't got nothing else to do. I'm running aground in Greenland, so let's watch Pod TV.
Oh, Estonia had a maximum. We had 26 in Estonia. I'm telling you, Estonia is not that big of a country. Like I said, I think Raleigh's bigger than the whole country of Estonia. So now that compares to the United States, which has 2 million viewers on Pod TV. So you look at 26, that's not very good. So yeah, we're beaming in a lot of countries, but it's not like you get a lot of viewers in some of these other countries. It's just
Oh, we're getting
Hey,
some
we should talk about
traction. We're
UAW
getting
that's on
traction in
strike.
other countries,
What?
but not here. Whoops! There goes my light. Hey, Jacoby, did y'all have your last game this week?
It's on Sunday.
Oh,
Right.
what
And
time?
right now they are in front. I don't know if they won
Yep.
yesterday, but when I looked, they were ahead
One
by.
yesterday in front. But the last home game is Sunday at 1:00.
And
That means it's not the last game because don't they have playoffs and stuff like that?
well, they have playoffs, but
So
they
it's
also
the
have
last-
a
It's the
last home
last
game because then they got
homestand.
another week of games
Well,
after the home game. Correct?
It's the last game at the ballpark for this year. It's the last homestand for and then they go on the road for a week. But if they end up winning, they'll go to the playoffs. The playoffs, the way that it works is they play 3 games at the home of the winner of the first half of the season. It's dumb how they're doing the halves. I don't like how MLB decided to do the half seasons, but they're doing the first. So the first place winner of the first half was Norfolk. So the Bulls, if they win this end up winning first place in the second half, they'll go to Norfolk for a 3-game series. The winner of that 3-game series will then play in Vegas. So Sunday is the last game of the homestand or the last game of the season at the ballpark.
The ballpark. Okay.
Yep.
So it's over for Bull Durham then.
Yes.
Which
Well,
I guess
over
that
for
movie
the- and then they were
Durham famous. Is that what happened?
So the Bulls have been around forever. The Bulls yes, the movie itself helped the popularity of the actual team. I mean, it does with everything. But the
Right.
Bulls have always been famous. It's always been one of the top teams across the globe or across minor league sports, just
Right.
because of the name itself. I mean, before the actual movie, there have been, they've been around forever from the tobacconists.
Just tell me.
Does North Carolina have a major league baseball team?
No,
Why not?
because North Carolina itself,
Didn't Steve say we're the 8th largest state in the United States, and
So-
North Carolina is great and wonderful, and you don't even have a bloody MLB team? What's going on?
So we've got a Major League
Florida has
Basketball,
3.
Major League Soccer. We've got a Major League
Major League
we've got
Football.
an NFL team. We don't have a Major League baseball
I'm not
team.
sure about
We
the
do
NFL.
have 2 actual major minor league teams. One with the Charlotte Knights, and then of course the Durham Bulls. The trouble with trying to make a major league team is still the amount of money and the amount of space that has to go into that, and then also keeping
You have that Durham Park.
But it's
And
still-
your attendance is as good as the Tampa Bay Rays. I've been
But
to.
you have to have a
there.
particular amount of potential seating, as well as the ticket prices go up, the parking prices go up, and because of those prices, I mean, right now, in sports wise, yes, the Bulls are probably the best game in town. The Canes are one of the best, or the best hockey game in town. So it's just dealing with your demographic and having focusing on, is it possible, or would we lose attendance? Would we lose? I mean, there's just a lot of factors that go
Hey,
into it.
Jacoby, do we have you said,
So
I
those
thought
are
I
all
just
the
heard you say
pieces
soccer, but
for
do we
the
have,
largest-
is it a Major League Soccer team? Because I thought that was one of the conversations around that park that they wanted to build in Raleigh. Because I thought
They
it was like
wanted
a
to build-
semi-pro soccer team that we had right now. Do we have to have a professional soccer team?
No, it's semi-pro. It's
Yeah, semi-professional.
yeah.
Okay,
Because I heard there was that
I've heard
competition in
all
Raleigh
the
about trying to get a
excuses,
professional soccer team.
and that's what they are. Excuses everybody has. Yeah. What's up?
But
We can hear you.
Kim, you're on mute.
We also have a semi-pro, and while Kim gets off of mute, don't we also have a semi-pro? Speaking of things that are in the other parts of the world, I think we have a semi-pro cricket team. I wish Steve was here, and I think we have a semi-pro rugby
you were.
team as well. I think we have a semi-pro rugby team.
So what?
Okay, I have an idea. We can use the Knights and the Bulls as a farm league, build a Major League Baseball in between the two cities, maybe in the Piedmont area in Greensboro, because they do have the international airport there, and they need something. And this would help them grow, and that's pretty close to the mountains, right? So there's a lot that you can do there. There's plenty of space there to build a stadium of that grandeur.
So
And
that
you would
actually
get people
wouldn't
from both cities.
that wouldn't work because the problem is the way the farm system is. Every major league team has has an average of 5 teams associated with it, and those 5 teams are designated by the partnerships and not only the MLB and so on and so forth all the way down. So every team has 5 teams associated with it. So you couldn't have a farm system of Charlotte and the Bulls. That's why you don't have a farm system of the Bulls and the Mudcats. So you don't really have a farm system that could work that way because of the way the actual contracts are written. So the minor league baseball system, again, they already have contracts with their particular teams, and the major league teams have their contracts all the way down. So even building a stadium there, you would have to have a team that would go there. So take, for instance, the Miami Marlins. Well, the Florida Marlins, which used to be the Miami Marlins, which had to become the Florida Marlins because they didn't have the attendance and had to become somewhat of a state team to draw in attendance more. So even if they were to leave out of Florida and move to North Carolina, you would have to tie a farm system to them that could be able to deal with that. And just because it says baseball doesn't mean that those teams would be able to feed into that, because the cost itself is going to bleed either Charlotte or bleed either Durham. And actually could possibly bleed both. So then you're losing your attendance at the other 2 cities that you're working with. And then on top of that, if you build one right in the middle, now you're taking out Greensboro Grasshoppers. You're also taking out the Burlington Royals.
You can't lose them.
Yeah, well, there are a bunch of, and the Greensboro Grasshoppers are a farm team for the Washington Nationals. And then you're talking, so it's much more complex than just dropping the team.
Right. I love our minor league. Actually, I love going to them. The Knights are great. Kannapolis has a great team. Who else? Winston-Salem has a great team. I mean, we've got some beautiful stadiums too. If you've never been to any, just go to those small towns and visit them, because they built up those small towns around the stadium. They got coffee shops, breweries. It's a great, just walk through. They're so kind and friendly. And it's a lot of fun. I've been to a couple, and I love them. Every time I go to a small town where there's a stadium, I always go do a drive-by and check it out.
Yeah. Well, they're not even always hold on a second. Hold on a second, because they're not always just the known sports. I know Nick was teasing us early when I mentioned some of the other sports that existed, like rugby and everything. But I want to say that there is a major complex because of an Olympian, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Holly Springs that has the major iceplex, because I've been trying to get the gentleman to come on there and everything, because he was into the surfing kind of games that existed and everything.
I mean, there are a ton of great complexes, great stadiums, great arenas in North Carolina.
Right.
I mean, the PNC Arena, one of the best. I mean, and honestly, they're actually doing a lot in terms of now pumping money around it. So they're going to build out that stadium and make it into a city within itself, which has been needed and necessary for a while. And I'm glad that investment is there. But again,
it is Holly Springs, by the way, because the person I was talking about was the Daniel Dares Action Sports Complex, and Daniel was a skateboarder and a BMX competitor.
But dropping in another professional team in a state that might not be able to handle not only the economic impact, because the economic impact isn't just because, hey, we're going to bring people from out of state in. The economic impact is also within the communities. So that economic impact is going to be felt by those. It's like dropping a Walmart into a small town. That kills a lot of the mom and pop stores. So if you drop in a Walmart, a big major league stadium, you're going to kill a lot of these smaller entities out there that we're trying to keep and trying to save and build up. Because again, Burlington Royals, The brand new stadium in Burlington is still just brand new. The brand new stadium in Fayetteville is still just brand new. Charlotte, technically, it's been around for a while, but technically, it is still a brand new stadium. So dropping in a brand new something in there kills a lot of the quote unquote mom and pop smaller entities, and then it just makes it harder. It would be nice to develop one of the teams that are here into a major league stadium or major league team. But again, that's a large money investment, and it's just going to be it's one of those things that has to be really researched and partnered with, and so it's just a tough call. I mean, right now we have a really great thing.
Great. And by the way, we do have our sports show. Matter of fact, I just heard from Siobhan earlier, and they're going to be taping this weekend, so we should have some new episodes coming up. So Second Take is our new sports show with the students from George Washington and their sports department and all along those lines. So they will be talking about all of this kind of stuff, including football, the Premier League, so both regular, what is considered American football, as well as world football, and then they'll also be talking about baseball and the MLB, and I think they'll get into maybe some conversations around cricket and a number of other sports. So we'll have our second week of commentary from those fine kids and all along those lines. And speaking of the kids, the other news story that I was getting ready to get to, and we can probably talk about it next week and everything, because it is a very important issue outside of sports, but the sports also deals with it, is bullying. And apparently a family of a bullied teen recently was awarded a historic $27 million after their son had been punched to death at the school where he was at. Ooh. So that settlement just recently came down.
Where was this at?
I'm going to find out. It looks like it's on the West Coast because it was KTLA, and I know that all of that is west of the Mississippi and all in that space. But if you hold on one second, I'll tell you exactly where it was located at. But that's a pretty big settlement to get, and all in that kind of line. But yeah, that was what just recently took place with this $27 million settlement and all in that space. So, and it just happened on yesterday and all in that way. And it was in California. A California family reached a $27 million settlement with the San Marino Valley Unified School District on Wednesday, 4 years after 13-year-old Diego Schultz was punched to death at his middle school on September 16th of 2019.
I'm going to go visit another bully now. It's called Russia, China, Ukraine, which starts in about 1 minute.
So yep, I got to sneak off to a meeting, so I'll see you, Mark.
No problem. We're all getting ready to get out of here. And definitely we're getting ready to end. And like you just said, we're going to China and Ukraine. But another interesting conversation, including some of sports and everything. So I'm going to let you slide off. I'm going to slide off as well. And we're going to get on out of here and all along those lines. So definitely they do not have the whole thing with, because I think that's in a different one of our folders. So if you hold on 1 second, we're going to end this show. I do have a question for the boss as well. So hold on 1 second as we get ready to end this show and get ready to go to the next show as well. So hold on. Actually, can't wait why I'm having to do this if I don't find what I'm looking for. Hold on. Oh, I found it.